On this episode of Reliterated, they were born, bred, and trained to be killers. Prowling the woods night after night, their sole purpose, their only joy, their one reason for being was cold-blooded murder. And the master they serve is a single-minded child whose only satisfaction in life was having a pair of gladiators to fight deathmatch after deathmatch for him to claim their quarry's skin as a trophy. But they eventually learn that when you play a dangerous game of fighting to the death on a nightly basis, there comes a time when you lose. We take a bloody romp through the river bottoms of the Ozark Mountains, where the red fern grows, on Reliterated, the podcast that's part of a balanced breakfast. To Reliterated, the lowbrow book club of grown-ass adults reading the children's books popular in the 1990s, but with 2020's hindsight. Fair warning, we use language too mature for kids, analysis too immature for literary scholars, and ignorance too profound to be inoffensive to everyone. We also talk about our books in depth, and that includes spoilers. So before you listen, if you're not familiar with the story, prepare to be spoiled. I'm Andy.
I'm Harold.
And I'm Josh.
And welcome back. This is 2023. It's a new chapter of the podcast.
Yes, yes.
And it feels real good to be doing this again, guys.
Yeah, I finally am, not sick after 3 months. So,
Yay. It's the little victories.
Yeah.
I have some interesting, not as fun takes on this book.
Well, before we launch into the book, this chapter is going to be entirely made up of requested books from our friends. And this first one was requested by Janelle. And we have her with us on the show. Say hello, Janelle.
Hi.
Hello.
So, Janelle, what is the book you have selected for us?
So I selected Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. And I would just like to say that I wanted this book for two reasons. One, I knew it was on y'all's list, and you weren't going to do it unless you were nudged. And two, I thought I had fond memories of the book, but I have fond memories of the time in which the book was read, and not necessarily the book itself.
As it turns out.
Yeah, because I did not remember a lot of this book. Oh, God.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
You're not the only one. Because, I remember reading this book for, I believe, Mr. Lang's class in 4th grade. And then I read it, I believe it was the summer. I believe it might have been my 6th grade summer. I'm pretty sure it was the summer before I got my first dog, Pudgy. And so I was dog crazy. And that would explain why when I read it for the second time, I bawled my eyes out. And that's why I was dreading rereading it. And I didn't cry this time. So
Well, I read it for the first time and I didn't cry either.
Well, that's because you hate animals.
Yeah, that I didn't cry, but I definitely had some tears at the back of my eyes. That's about it, though. That's just because I absolutely love animals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you must be a good person then.
I didn't say that. I said I love animals.
Yeah, I'd never read this book before. All I really knew about it was it has dogs on the cover and everyone says it has a sad ending. So why the hell would I want to read a book like that?
Right?
To build character, Andy.
Yeah.
To build character. Yeah, okay.
And we'll get into it, but there's shit in this book for all of us to hate. I think.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, Where the Red Fern Grows. Author Wilson Rawls' book was published in 1961. Josh, why don't you tell us what you dug up about the author here?
So, Woodrow Wilson Rawls, so he went by his middle name. He was born in Scraper, Oklahoma on September 24th, 1913, and he lived on a small farm out in the outskirts, and his family was quite poor. So the only education they got was the education given to them by their mother, but she was one of those moms that was like, no, you're going to learn, kind of like in the book. So he was brought up by her. He had some siblings. There's really not a lot on this guy with his early life. And he only wrote 2 books. He wrote this book and The Summer of the Monkeys. I've never read that. I think it's pretty good, though. But yeah, he had some issues growing up. He got into some scrapes, but, he just became a carpenter. And throughout his whole life, he was like, I want to be a writer, but he never thought he was good enough to write. And because of his lack of formal education and things like that, until he met his wife in 1956, and her name is Sophie, and they worked together at the Atomic Energy Commission in Idaho Falls, and they were married in 1958. And she was actually one of the people that was like, hey, you should do something with these. These are, good. And so basically he was able through different journeys and things like that, he was able to basically speak to children at a school about his story. And the teachers would then read the story, and it kind of grew from word of mouth. It didn't really win any awards or anything until after it really got out there, but he didn't have a traditional way of selling it. It caught on through word of mouth, which is, I thought, very interesting. And then in 1972, he was able to sell the rights to Hollywood, and there have been 2 movies made from this book. And then he, unfortunately, he did pass away in December 16th in 1984 in Cornell, Wisconsin. They had no kids, but, we're left with his stories. So he did a lot of public speaking as well. He went to a lot of schools and basically was one of those people like, hey, anybody can be a writer. Look at me. I did it. And, you guys can too.
I wrote a book.
I wrote a popular book about dogs.
He wrote 2 popular books, one about dogs and one about monkeys.
I've already forgotten what the other one was called.
The Summer of the Monkeys.
Summer of the Monkeys.
Okay. Apparently some monkeys escape from a carnival or something like that, and so he as a boy tries to capture them. So
and then they die in the end.
They die in the end.
Again, I didn't read that one. Not yet.
No, I didn't either.
So yeah. Where the red fern grows. So before we embarked on reading this book, I had Janelle try to recall what she remembered the book was about, because she had fond memories of reading the book, but didn't quite remember everything. So I'm gonna let her read her summary that she wrote, because there were some accuracies, some inaccuracies, and I think we'll get a good laugh out of them.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're dubbing this the Barb's Your Aunt before Harold tells us how it really went down with Bob's Your Uncle.
Yes. Okay. So, Where the Red Fern Grows is a story about a boy named Billy, a name I only know because of the back of the book, and his 2 coonhounds. Set sometime in the early-ish 20th century in some small country town, Billy gets his 2 hounds for either Christmas or his birthday. I can't remember which. He names them pretty basic backwoods names, Old Dan and Little Ann, and with the help of his father, raises them to hunt coon, as young country boys are wont to do in the early 20th century. Eventually, Billy and his hounds enter into the big coon hunt, where he's hunting against some really good competition. At some point, there is a not coon that starts to attack Billy. Wolves, foxes, bear. Anyway, in come his beloved, loyal, fearsome, fighting, furry friends to rescue him. One of the dog gets tore up something terrible, Anne probably, and doesn't last much past them getting rescued after daybreak, which only happens because old Dan runs off like the well-trained hound he is to get help. After Little Ann dies, Billy buries her on this hill where wild red ferns grow, and old Dan goes into a deep doggy depression. He's not the same dog without his 4-legged little sister. Billy and old Dan visit Little Ann's burial site often, and one night, old Dan runs away from the home and dies on the hill where the red fern grows.
Yeah.
And that is Barb's Your Aunt.
It's pretty close. I mean, honestly, all I remembered about this book were 2 things. The raccoon trap that he caught his first raccoon with.
Yep.
And the dogs died. And I could not remember for the life of me why the dogs died. I'm like, something happened. It was some kind of fight out in the woods. I knew, like you're saying, bear, wolves, something like that.
Something, yeah.
The dogs died, and then the red fern grew where they were buried. That's all I remembered.
So it took me all of, I think I marked it. No, I didn't mark it. Oh, I did. Here it is. It took me all of reading in chapter 1 to where he talked about getting his KC baking powder can in his memory to realize that I was way the fuck wrong on how he got the dogs.
So
Yeah, I think it's time that we set the record straight.
we'll set the record straight.
With the real summary.
I want to be clear about something really quick. The Bob's Your Uncle summary will not include minute details that we each impersonally realized from the book as we were reading it. We'll cover those later after the Bob's Your Uncle summary. This has been Harold telling Josh not to tell him what he forgot in the summary.
I like that part.
Okay. So, Billy is a determined young boy that really wants some dogs, and specifically he wants some hound dogs to hunt raccoons. He starts working really hard and puts together nickels and pennies at a time for 2 years, saves up, and gets his grandpa to go in or to order the dogs for him without his parents knowing. This kid goes through yet again. He's kind of like a Sam Gribley, only a little bit more believable. He spends a night in a cave with the dogs. He's coming home, and right away he notices that the boy dog is howling and courageous, and the girl dog is kind of smarter and kind of like, hey, we should be careful here. And so he finds a tree, and it says, carved into it is Dan and Ann. And so he names the dogs Old Dan and Little Ann because they're good country names. Well, he goes out and starts training the dogs. And in order to train the dogs, he needs to have a real coon pelt. So he talks to his grandpa. His grandpa teaches him this method, which is you take and cut a hole in a log, and the coon sticks his hand in. It can't stop gripping. He gets his first coon pelt. He trains the dogs. Lo and behold, they are the best coon dogs that have ever existed, ever. And this is because God loves Billy, and God keeps giving things to Billy whenever he wants it.
Or God hates coons. I don't know.
And God hates coons as well, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. So he starts coon hunting every night, and the dogs just get so damn good at it. And the first ones that he goes after, he has to cut down a whole sycamore tree to get the coon, but he promised the dogs. And this is the bond that they have all throughout. Well, eventually, he gets challenged to go after this ghost coon by a kid nearby. And during the chase, his dogs tree the coon. But the boy Reuben and Rainey, yes, Rainey. Reuben and Rainey, they say he's supposed to kill it. Or give up money in a bet. Well, he refuses to kill it, and Reuben goes running at his dogs because his dogs are attacking Reuben's dog, and Reuben falls on an axe and dies. Also a part I did not remember from this book. Billy gets better from there, and he overcomes it, as people back then always did. It's because they just had to. And he ends up getting into a contest with real coon hunters, and they treat him as a coon hunter while he's there, and he goes out there and they catch more coons than everybody else. And even winning that, he won $300. His parents are wanting to move into town. That's some good money. So he goes back home. He gets back to hunting again. He just can't stop. And one fateful night, the dogs get a scent on and chase a cougar up a tree. And eventually, old Dan, who's super brave, won't stop. And him and the cougar get into it. And Ann tries to help, but Dan ends up getting killed. Not before killing the cougar. And but he gets killed because he gets gutted. And he survives till morning and then dies. And then Ann dies shortly after because she loses the will to live. Billy buries the dogs up on a hill, and he just can't get over it. He doesn't want to leave. He can't stand the idea of moving, and he doesn't want to be away from his dogs. And then one day he goes up there to Red Fern has grown there. And there's an old Native American legend, according to the book, that only angels plant red ferns. And so an angel must have planted a red fern for his dogs, and he feels better to go. And that's Bob's Your Uncle. That's Red Fern grows. That's it. We'll get into nitty gritty. There's a lot of nitty gritty things that I want to talk about, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta try it. Yeah,
there's a lot in this book. But yeah, it's it's weird that it's an Indian or Native American legend about angels.
Well, because his mom is Native American.
I didn't catch that at all.
In the beginning of the book, the reason they have the property is because
because she got it. through like the Homestead Act or something
Yeah.
like that.
She's a Native American.
Yeah, I remember that now. I didn't remember it until it was said, but I remember it now.
That's a detail that completely went over my head.
Yeah.
All I knew about his mom was that
Right
she
here.
worried so much.
The land we lived on was Cherokee land allotted to my mother because of the Cherokee blood that flowed through her veins.
Oh, okay.
And that's based on his real mom, because that's literally how they had that farm, was because of
Yeah,
her
I mean, the book
allotment.
was like semi-autobiographical
Mhm.
to Wilson Rawls.
Well, he had a
Really?
very
So-
dry life filled with a lot of filler.
So did Wilson did Wilson Rawls then one time in a city watch a bunch of dogs attack another dog and watch the dog fight go on until he realized it was a hound, and then he saved the dog and stopped the fight?
I don't think so.
The opening to this book bothered me. Like
Yeah.
the amount of autonomy he gave to that dog and everything that was happening in that situation. I'm like, that dog needs you, dude. You can't just send it out at night. You
Not
know?
only that, like it starts off in like present day to when he wrote it, like 1960s.
Right.
I think it was like Idaho or something, but it's some city. I think the real Wilson Rawls moved out to like Idaho or whatever, but he's like older, living in a city, coming home from the office, sees a pack of dogs attacking an old hound, and he takes the hound back to nurse its wounds and all that, and is reminded of the two old coon hounds that he used to own as a boy, and that launches into the story, and we never come back.
Yeah, but still, like I'm saying, like he says to the dog, "You could have stayed as long as you want." Apparently not, dude. The dog can't open the door. Of course he wants to go outside. He's a fucking dog. He probably has to
You
take a
stay
shit.
as long as I want you to.
Yeah. No. See you later, dog. He was thanking me. Well, he thought you were letting him live there, dude. Please don't send me away. See you later, dog. Fuck. Again. Yeah, that part was a little bit odd. That's animal abuse, dude.
Just leaving the door open and saying goodbye. Have a good life.
Yeah, you just wrote that you did animal abuse.
I think it's past the statute of limitations, so
Oh, I'm
he's
sure.
probably safe.
Put his coffin in a prison. Boom, you're done, mister. Let that be a lesson to all the rest of you, too.
Yeah, I didn't remember how that it started with that. I didn't.
You guys just read this with me, right? We all just read this?
I mean, I
Yeah.
read it when I was younger.
Yeah.
but-
Based on
okay.
memory, yeah.
I thought you were saying right now you didn't remember. I'm like, okay, I get the
No,
Native American
I read
thing.
it. No, I meant when I was like, I didn't remember it from a kid. The only things I remembered were I don't know why that raccoon getting hit over the head with a club was so traumatic to me as a child. Because that is the part I remember. Like I was like, hands down, that happens. This raccoon gets fucked up by a club. I don't know why.
That wasn't what I remembered. What I remembered is that the trap that he used was considered inhumane by his dad, and he said he could only use it the one time. From there on out, he needed to use it.
Yeah, the dogs,
Yeah.
which will rip the fucking shit out of a
Right.
raccoon. That's so much better than
But
one
the,
smack over the head.
The rationale was okay. So Billy's grandpa trains him how to rig up these traps with nails in a hole in a stump and a piece of tin down at the bottom, so that the raccoon will grab the tin and never let go. He is like, raccoons are supposedly incapable of letting go of something that they want or whatever. And when he finally gets a raccoon in one of these traps, his dad makes him undo all of these nail traps that he's made, because he says that way it'll be 50-50. Like, he wants to give the raccoon a fighting chance, so, maybe he'll fuck up your dogs, or,
Right.
maybe not.
Maybe not.
But we got to give him that chance. We want to make it a fair fight.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's legitimate.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I was like, also the fact that the grandpa, that was his normal way of just killing animals. I was like, dude.
Your grandpa's got a history there. I want his story next.
Right. These coons and the coon hounds. Okay, so saying that, it made me uncomfortable how much he uses the word coon.
Coon.
Well, yeah, but that is the literal, like,
Yeah, I mean, they're literal raccoons, but
yeah.
It's gained connotation.
I understand, but there's also still blue tick coonhounds and
Well,
red bone
red-tick coonhounds,
coonhounds.
yeah.
So this is
What?
one of those scenarios where context matters. You know what
Very
I
much
mean?
so.
It really is.
Context matters.
So, what edition of the books do you guys have? Because Andy and I have different editions, and he definitely does not have coonhounds on his cover.
Mine does. Mine has a black one and a red one. So I was like, okay, they're not both red bone on the cover. What's up with that? But whatever, it's fine.
Mine definitely look like retrievers.
Yeah, he has retrievers on his cover.
And I think it's like the more popular cover. It's like the one that I'm familiar with seeing from back in the day. The boy with the lantern and two dogs. One of them's not even smaller than the other. How do they get away with? They didn't read the book. This cover artist did not read the book. I think he just copied that one. Except no, those are hounds. Those are
Yeah, I
definitely
was gonna
hounds.
say
On
mine
yours.
are definitely hounds. Because I have a red hound and then I have a black, red, and white hound.
Yeah, but it's like the same scenario. Boy, dark woods, moon behind him, silhouette of trees,
Just
and
different
two dogs. He just picked dogs at random.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know how to draw retrievers. I'll just draw retrievers.
I mean, let's not forget the Saint Bernard in Call of the Wild.
Oh yeah,
On the cover of Call of the Wild.
what is it with novel cover artists and the wrong breeds of dogs?
We need something with a dog on it. Sure.
Like they don't want to do their research. Just any dog, just throw on any dog. It's fine.
Nobody will know the difference.
Nobody. Like, I am not a big fan of dogs, and I still know the difference.
It's not like dogs have evolved next to humans for 15,000 years to the point where we could actually recognize their faces if we've known them long enough. You know?
To the point where we cause them to have health issues just because we want them to have flat faces.
A boy and his pug. It's a picture of a fucking kid with a chihuahua or something. Like, the guys.
With a Great Dane.
It's gotta be a small dog. Make it we need a picture of a
Marmaduke
boy with
played
a
by
small dog.
Pekingese.
Yeah.
Also, the part about clubbing the coon over the head reminds me of a certain groundhog in your backyard.
Oh my god.
And I think that story needs to be told.
Oh, I don't know. Anyways, some time ago, long time ago, we'll say, I had a groundhog in my backyard. And understand that I'm not a hunter. I don't really have any interest in killing animals. They don't have any, they're not doing nothing to me. But this groundhog's in my backyard, and I had the great idea that I was going to catch it. And I decided I'd catch it in a way I had seen on a show called Naked and Afraid, which was with a snare. So in my genius thoughts, I was like, I'll just put the snare together, put it out there where I think I see the groundhog's hole. I'll catch him. And I did. I caught him. And as soon as I got out there, I was like, I have no idea what I should do with this. And so
you waited for me to get there.
Yeah. And then I got Josh. I called Josh out
coming
there
into
to blow
town.
away. So no, you were there already. I went and got you.
You were there already.
Yeah.
I was there
Okay.
too, but I stayed inside.
Oh, you
Was I
stayed inside?
still in Wisconsin?
I was with the boys. I was inside with the boys.
As I was outside,
As you and Josh went outside
I went outside to become a man. So
to become a man.
yeah. So I go out there and I had this like spear that I had made or whatever out of an old knife. I worked with knives and stuff, and I was blacksmithing for a while. I was having fun, but I was like, okay, well, I'll use this and I'll kill it quick. And so I went over and I tried to kill it, and I didn't kill him. And I tried to kill him again. It didn't kill him. And then I, in a hurry, ran and grabbed a machete that I had been using to cut the vines out from my fence area. And I'd been banging this machete into the ground for 3 days. And I came over and I was like, I'll just chop his head off. And I went to try and do that, and it was blunt. So I ended up having to beat him to death, and it was awful. It was the most awful experience in my entire life. And
I'm glad I could unrepress the memory.
I hated it every second of it, and I felt terrible. I regretted that snare trap immediately. Yeah.
See, this is why we just use 22s to get rid of them.
Oh, dude, I mean, that's the
easier.
thing. I would have used one of my guns to shoot it, but I couldn't because we were in the city. Even my 22, I couldn't, you know? What am I going to do, stand out in the backyard and shoot a varmint? You know, I mean...
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
we did.
A lot of homes on neighborhood. You get the cops called on him. Someone saw him.
22s aren't that loud.
They are. I might have got away with it. You know, people ask me what happened. Hey, I had a fucking groundhog situation, okay?
This isn't gun dependent. It's more neighbor dependent. 'Cause
Right.
I'm pretty sure you had some neighbors that would have done it, no matter what gun you had or what the situation was.
Right. Yep. I tried to get him out of the yard. I was shooting him with a slingshot for like 3 weeks, but he would not leave.
You had 2 dogs?
Yeah, but that's who found it, was the dogs.
That's who found it, was the dogs.
Well, because all of a sudden I let the dogs out and they ran straight down and they were like, rah, 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 rah. I'm like, oh my God.
I gotta save this poor creature.
So then I wrestled the dogs into the house. Oh. Yeah, 0 out of 10 would not recommend. So I kind of have a kinship with Billy in a way.
What's that?
Well, I mean, I trapped a varmint and my dogs spotted it and then I had to kill it.
The only difference is that it didn't feed your lust for wanting more of them.
It didn't. No, it
Right.
absolutely.
You couldn't sell that groundhog for money.
But also, like Janelle's saying, I was not like, oh my God, I got to start hunting groundhogs. I was like, oh my God,
I don't want to ever do this again.
this is an awful experience and I never want to do this again.
But no, Billy, he had a bloodlust for skinning coons, and
Mhm.
he wanted dogs to help him get them coons. He had to catch them all.
Do you think that if he didn't have coons to hunt, like if he had lived in the city, he might have become a serial killer?
I think he would have been more of a Sam Gribley type that just needed to get out in the woods.
Because he really enjoyed
He enjoyed
skinning and killing things.
Well, raccoons. That time, though, I mean, that would have been a reasonable occupation to be able to get into eventually. So, I mean, I think it's just a little different. Maybe it's the lack of those occupations that is increasing the number of people that are bloodlust and
I don't know.
I can't go out and just hunt.
So, are we saying we could rehabilitate serial killers by allowing them in the wild to
I
hunt
did not
animals?
say that. No, I think specifically when you get the serial killer, you're talking about like a percentage point of people. So it's like, you know, they're beyond.
And there are hundreds of podcasts about them if you want
Yeah.
to hear about them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Billy, though, I mean, the way he reacted to Ruben dying too was a little odd because I mean, like, and even like that whole time when he's like, "Get it out of me," I'm like, "Don't get it out of him."
I was like, yeah, that's how you end yourself.
That's
but
the worst thing you could do is get it out of him.
yeah, totally didn't remember that part at all.
Nope. Ruben was a dick, but I don't know if he deserved to get impaled by an axe.
You know what?
Yeah.
He did.
He
He
did.
did.
He really did.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Those Pritchard boys, nobody liked him.
No.
They were welching on the bet. Okay, to clarify a little bit more, so the Pritchard boys were just the hillbilliest of hillbillies. Like, they came into Billy's grandpa's store just they said they were buying some snuff for their paw or whatever, but when the grandpa let them have it, they just started chewing it and spitting on his floor and all that shit. And then they got into it about whether Billy's dogs could catch the famous ghost coon that's been roaming their property or whatever. And so they bet $2, which is probably about like, I don't know, $50 these days.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean,
But,
he took 2 years earning nickels at a time to buy
Yeah.
$50 worth of
Actually,
dogs. So.
Yeah.
I wrote down the figures. So the dogs, actually, he saved up $50 to buy 2 dogs because the ad that he saw said they were $25 a dog. And so he saved $50 over 2 years, which I estimate this book to be in like the mid 1920s or so. They don't give a specific year, but they do mention like bootleggers because like the Pritchard boys, or it was suspected the Pritchard family were like into bootlegging.
Yep.
So it puts it in that kind of territory. I don't remember when Prohibition was.
20s.
Like
The 20s.
mid-20s, like the whole 20s, basically.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most
Anyways,
of them.
But
Yeah.
when I calculated how much $50 is in today's money from 1924, that would be $870.
Jesus Christ.
That's an expensive fucking dog.
That's how much is inflated since the mid 1920s.
Well, that's for both of them, right? $50.
That's
Yeah.
how much he saved up, yeah. And
Okay.
it wound up being that the dogs only cost $20 a piece because the price had dropped
Change, yeah.
in the 2 years since he saw that ad. So he wound up only paying $40 and keeping $10 to buy a whole bunch of stuff for his family. By the way, Janelle and I noticed that like nobody in his family has names.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
Billy, there's Ma, there's Pa, there's 3 sisters that
There's
you
the
know,
littlest,
the littlest.
the biggest, and then the
biggest.
one that doesn't even have a size adjusted to her. She's just
Yeah.
that one that exists.
Yeah, nobody in his family really has names. And grandpa. So
Yeah. Grandma gets mentioned at one point too.
I mean, that makes
yeah,
sense.
grandma's there too. Yep. She's not a huge part of the story.
But Billy and the dogs, they're the ones who have names in this family.
Yeah. But anyways,
They're the stars.
right. to get back on the original track I was on, the Pritchard boys had bet him $2 that his dogs couldn't tree the coon, which basically would just mean they chase the raccoon up the tree. No obligation to kill them or anything, just $2 to tree the coon. They eventually do that. The whole time, like the coon supposedly disappeared, was tricking the dogs for a while, and the Pritchard boys were like, "You might well give up your money now." And
Okay, you're not making a good argument for this kid getting impaled on an axe, though. By the way,
but they were going to keep the money. They wanted him to kill the raccoon, but he said he didn't feel like killing the raccoon, but the bet was just for treeing him. So they were going to get their own dog to tree him.
No, it was already treed. They were going to get
It
their
was
dog to kill
not
him.
to tree him, but to kill him. Right. But their dog had broken loose and was attacking old Dan. And so Reuben took Billy's axe and was going to go kill old Dan because he was fighting with his own blue tick hound. But he tripped on a stick or something. I correct that. God tripped him
Yes.
with
it
a
was God.
stick
God.
to save old Dan.
Because God cares more about a dog than he does about a person.
God
He happens to
loves
be a hillbilly.
dogs who are
God
good
loves
at killing
dogs.
raccoons.
Because
God-
all dogs go to heaven.
except for Hitler's dog.
Except Hitler's dog was still a good boy.
He was. He still listened to all the commands that he was given. Like, come on. So
I don't know whether he was a good boy or not.
I wanted to look this up for reference. You said it was $50 and today's money was $870.
Yeah.
Okay. So the average price of a red bone coonhound right now is $600 a piece.
A piece.
So he's still got those dogs really cheap.
Yeah, especially since they were only $20 a piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause
For the best damn coonhounds that ever existed.
For
even
sure.
though they were apparently runs.
Even though they
They were
were like
tiny.
runts. Yeah.
Well,
Little
that
Ann
was the point, though.
little.
That was-
Yeah, I know. That was
Yeah.
the point. It's
Yeah.
just
Nobody
Mhm.
expected him. Nobody saw him coming because they were smaller than the other dogs.
I will say though, Billy gave God too much credit for
God.
for having the dogs.
For sure. For all his hard work. He gave me the heart and determination.
He
Yeah.
did it himself.
Yeah.
Come on.
all of it was God. Even at the end, after all of the money that he won in that competition, his mom is like, "Oh my God, God is blessing us with this money. We can buy a house now. Thank you, God." And it's like, your son just won that.
And at the end, when the dogs were dead, she was like, "Oh, that's God's way of saying that it's all right for us to move out now because you would have had to stay here. We couldn't have brought the dogs if we were going to move to the city. But you would have had to stay here until the dogs naturally passed away, I suppose. But she wanted him to like be in schools and stuff.
Yeah.
She was tired of educating his ass at home.
Well, what I loved, yeah, for sure, I get her reason. But the dad made the comment that this is God's way. He doesn't like to see families split apart. Tell that
Yeah.
Right.
to
So they
all
wouldn't
of
have
the
to be split
families
up.
that are split apart right now. Like, fucking, like, I'm talking, like, not just, like, literally families have been bombed apart, bro. So your guy that you're giving all this credit to, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part I don't mean to gripe by. It wasn't. There were just some major points. Any major point in the book, he made sure to give credit. Go. I'm like, oh my god, dude, come on, people.
Like
Whatever.
the very first raccoon that old Dan and little Ann tree. Billy's solution is to chop down this giant, what was it? Sycamore?
It's a sycamore.
A giant sycamore,
Yep.
which he named the big tree after like a little deliberation on what he was going to call it. He gave it this name and that name. That didn't sound right. I'll just call it the big tree. That's a perfect name for it.
Yeah,
Well, I
'cause
mean,
that-
after
yeah.
Old Dan and Little Ann, he's not going to get much more creative than that.
He's not a good namer.
No, he doesn't even have names for his family. Doesn't even have names. He never even.
His family doesn't even have names. How is he supposed to know what a good name is?
Yeah.
But he's chopping down this giant tree, and he just can't go on. It's like his hands are blistering and splitting open and everything, and then there in comes a wind that blows only on that tree and fells it so that the dogs can get at that raccoon.
Mm-hmm.
And that was God.
When he asks his dad's like, I don't know what to
I
say.
just don't know, Billy.
But his dad actually offered some good insight. Like, I did like this about that. How about this? I will give it this. When he asked his dad if it was God that helped him, because the wind wasn't blowing anywhere else and it only blew on that sycamore, his dad said, well, I don't know, Billy. He said, maybe the tree is just so tall that it reached up to where the wind actually was. And that was the only tree that was getting blown on. It fell over. He says, but was it God, Dad? And he goes, I can't say, son. You have to decide that for yourself. I like that.
That's decent.
That's
Yeah.
decent. I can take that.
But the reader is obviously supposed to
Oh, for sure.
conclude.
Right,
it's God.
right. Because then Billy immediately says, it was God.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And then again, I was thinking, no, science shows that it was probably just the wind that was reaching that one tree because it was tall.
Yeah.
Your dad's conclusion is astute.
And also mostly chopped through.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
And they had saws back then. He didn't have to work that hard. He could
Yeah.
have just got a saw or used a gun to scare it out like they do later on in the goddamn book.
Yeah, but he couldn't use a gun until he was 21 for some reason.
Yeah, his mom was too nervous to
Yeah,
let him
but
have
his
a gun.
dad had one. His grandpa had one. They both visited him at the goddamn
Uh-huh.
But
tree.
he had to get
And
the
you-
coon.
Yeah, he had to
Stupid.
get it for his dogs because
He
he promised his
He
dogs.
promised his dogs
Yep.
he would get that first raccoon they treed. Gotta hold your promise to your dogs.
Yep.
That's
He's-
why they're such good coon
He's
dogs.
bad at training too. He's not good at training.
Clearly
You
not.
guys, I have to bring this up. He can't get the dogs to leave the tree. At the end, he couldn't. If the fucking dogs would have listened to him, they wouldn't have died.
You're right.
If he would have been like out, nope, stop, you're done. Nope.
Yeah.
You know what it was?
What about the point about the fact that they sniffed the trail of a mountain lion, even though they're trained to hunt coon?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
And they
All my
didn't back
arguments are
down
gone.
to a mountain lion. Old Dan did not back down to a fucking mountain lion.
Nope.
Like what?
I think it was just because he wrote that part at the beginning about how the old Dan was howling at the mountain
Yeah.
cat, and it
So it
was
had to come
just to
circle.
kind of
It
wrap it up.
did bring it full circle. Yeah, on Billy's way home from first getting the dogs from town, he stayed in a cave because it was a long walk, and they heard a mountain lion out in the distance, and old Dan was howling at the distant mountain
Yeah.
lion, and Billy was worried that would bring the lion in and kill them all, get them all killed.
Yep.
So yeah, at the end that kind of brought it full circle. That I think he even surmised that it might be the same lion
Right.
Yeah.
from a couple years previous. I don't know how much time goes by after he gets the dogs.
It has to
they
be
literally
years.
don't say it.
It has to be at least a year or two. I mean, he trains them. They get to the point where he can take them on a real hunt and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't get even at 6 months, those dogs would still be a little green trying to do that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
they
But
had
you
to have
know-
been a year.
You know
and
what
a
it
half.
was? He had trained his Pokemon so much. He got them through that big competition, and they won this great coon catching competition, and they leveled up past the point where they would obey Billy, and he didn't have enough gym badges, so they figure they can go up against the legendary Pokemon, and no, they failed. It was
Yes.
not effective.
I think you've been playing a little too much Pokemon Go there, babe.
Is that how
So-
Pokemon works? 'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much how Pokemon works.
Yeah.
This kid really wants some Pokemon, so you can go out and
He's got to
catch
catch them all.
a specific kind of Pokemon. I mean, this is like a prototype Pokemon story, right?
They kind of, yeah, I would say it is. I mean, you would think that they kind of, maybe they got the idea from just the concept of a boy and his dog.
Just the concept of fighting animals.
Yeah,
using animals to fight other animals and
Training them.
getting as many animals as you can with those animals, training them.
I knew a guy that had, I believe he had blue ticks. And they hunted bear, black bear, and he had like 4 or 5 of them, and he was hunting some bear up in the UP, and the dogs went out after something, and he had this one female dog that was like fearless. Like she would, and he said he knew it was going to get her killed one day. And she was absolutely fearless. And when he found her tracker, he found all 4 of her legs and her head and the collar. And that was it.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. But they ended up getting the bear. The other 4 dogs ended up getting the bear, and treeing the bear, and he shot
treeing the bear.
They did. They treed the bear, yeah. I mean, they chased the black bear until it climbs up in a tree.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then the hunter comes up and shoots it out of the tree.
But the ironic part is, if Billy was allowed to carry a gun, maybe he could have done something about that mountain lion.
For sure. Yep.
That's why America needs more gun now.
Yeah.
After the 3rd shooting this week, and it's Monday.
Oh my God.
Fuck.
Yeah, I was, there's actually video of this Brandon Say. He stopped the Monterey guy. Well, he grabbed the gun from the Monterey guy. He wrestled it out of his hands. And the video is wild. And it, for me, I don't mean to go on to this right now, but for me, it was seeing this guy's taking the gun away from him and just trying to keep him away from the gun. At multiple points, he had the option that he could have been like, this guy's crazy, and fucking shot him. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's, if he gets the gun, he's going to shoot me, so I should probably shoot him, is what you think that he might be thinking. But no, he just keeps the gun away from the guy, and the guy ends up giving up and walking away. And I was like, one of those people was in the act of going through massacring people, and the other person wouldn't even bring himself to shoot a person that should have been probably shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop him. You know what I mean? And it's
certainly
just,
the quickest and easiest, simplest solution.
if you're just a regular person, you're not the police, and you don't have backup and all that kind of stuff. I mean, but I'm saying, like, it was great to watch it happen like that. Like, it was awesome that he did it that way. But just to think, like, one of those people, one of those individual human beings was ready to kill anybody, and the other one wouldn't even, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't even bring themselves to do that. I'm glad he couldn't bring himself to do that. It's a good thing that people can't do that.
It's the noble,
humane thing.
The humane thing to do, but that's a scary
yeah.
situation. I'm just saying, with the guns,
Yeah.
So it's good on him. Brandon Say is his name. Tsay. That's the guy who got the gun away from the piece of shit who was shooting people.
And he didn't have a gun?
He didn't have a gun, dude.
Surprising.
himself.
Yeah, he
So
got
you
up on
don't
him.
need a gun to get a gun away from something. Okay.
I don't recommend going at somebody with a gun and trying to get it away without a gun.
right. I
That's
guess
pushing
he
it.
probably
Just
had the
shows that
opportunity.
you
I haven't
don't
seen the
need to.
video, but yeah, in the situation, you flee or you fight. If whatever's the
Advantageous.
not the easiest thing, but
whatever's most
whatever
advantageous.
you have the most advantage in whatever.
Yep. And that's what he had the drop on him and got the gun out of his hands. That's what happened. And it's like fucking great.
Yeah.
Great.
But anyways, mountain lions and raccoons.
Yeah, mountain lions and raccoons.
And Mewtwo's.
The amount of similes in this book. The amount of terrible similes, actually. Like, really weird, off-the-wall similes. And I asked Andy this. Do either of you, Harold and Josh, know what a mud dauber is?
No.
Nope.
Okay. I only know because I lived in Texas, and they are in the South. It is a type of wasp, because he talks about them in the book when his mom started kissing him all over and saying that he was feeling as wet as a dirt dauber's nest. So he uses dirt dauber, mud dauber. They're the same thing. They're a type of wasp. They're mostly very docile, but their nests are not wet. They're very dry.
So they're like paper wasps, kind of?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
do you know like those wasps with like the impossibly narrow like thorax?
Yeah.
Where it's like the head and maybe like the upper thorax, and it's like that really needle thin
I think so.
rest of the thorax, and then it's
then
the abdomen with the
Yeah.
with the stinger or whatever.
Yeah, I know what
or
you're
the
talking about.
Yeah.
pointy end. Yeah,
Dan.
that's a dauber, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically what a mud dauber or dirt dauber is. But when he said that, like, he suddenly felt as wet as a dirt dauber's nest, I was very confused as someone who knows what a dirt dauber is and what their nest looks like. And I would say what page it's on, but Andy and I learned that our pages are drastically different.
Different editions.
Like my book starts on page 11 and his starts on page 1, but he still ended up having more pages than I did.
Weird. Just because of the font?
The way that, the font, the
narrower text blocks,
I guess. Yeah. So it's the
narrower
end.
pages.
Oh, I guess it's technically the last page of chapter 11 is where it is, where he's talking about the feeling as wet as a dirt dauber. And I looked it up and I showed it to Andy and I'm like, that thing's not wet. Those nests are not wet. And so it was from that point that I started like marking his really strange use of similes, because there are some really outlandish similes in here.
So I wanted to look up the mud dauber really quick. And I'm on the Wikipedia, and they've actually crashed 2 airplanes.
They've been responsible
for
2 airplane crashes.
Yep.
I could see that.
In 1996, in Puerto Plata, in the Dominican Republic, a plane went down because a pilot or pitot tube was blocked. And they believe it's because mud daubers built a nest inside of it because it sat on the tarmac for 25 days before it flew. And then on April 10th, 2015, Gulfstream was substantially damaged because of some plugged hole in the fuselage.
Yeah, they essentially just like their nests would literally basically appear overnight all over our house. And you'd walk outside and suddenly just see this mud dauber nest just chilling there. And you're like, okay, I guess you're here now. But yeah, they basically just anywhere that they can will just put their little nest. And you never really see them come in and out of it, but it's there.
Right. Huh. I'm glad that I know the random fact of the airplane thing now, too, though.
The
like,
airplane.
That's something
They crashed
else.
airplanes.
2
okay.
airplanes. We're 2-0 on these fucking wasps. You know, we haven't taken out any of their major transports.
And then where was it? Little Anne at the beginning of chapter 14, where she was as happy as a young gray squirrel. Like that one also made me chuckle because I'm like, how happy is a young gray squirrel exactly?
how do you know that young gray squirrels are happy creatures?
I feel like they're very anxious creatures.
I feel like it. Yeah.
I remember singing the song Gray Squirrel at camp.
Gray squirrel, gray squirrel.
Swish your bushy tail.
I feel like any Southern storyteller should be more on point with their similes, though.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Like as nervous as a June bug in a hen house. That's another one. Like,
that's a good one.
It just made me laugh. Like some of these are really outlandish, and then some of them are just very interesting to think about. There's this one. And at one point, and I thought I had marked it, but I didn't. And I looked back at how old he was at the beginning of this book. At the beginning of this book, he was 10.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point in this book, he literally says that he is not interested in girls yet.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with
and
that.
And it's been at least a year.
I couldn't do that so much as I could kiss a girl.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm like, shouldn't...
he gets the dogs when he's 12.
Yeah, because it took 2 summers.
Yeah.
So 12.
Mm-hmm.
And by this point...
13, 14.
So he should be interested in kissing girls.
Unless he's not.
Okay, but this is semi-autobiographical.
What if he's more interested in other things?
This is semi-autobiographical, though, right?
Just semi.
Sure, but that doesn't mean anything because honestly, like, I was intrigued by girls, but he's saying as soon as I could kiss a girl, and basically what he's saying, I don't know, to me, I take that as, I mean, I didn't even kiss a girl till I was like 17 years old, you know? I mean,
well, he's not saying as soon as I could kiss a girl.
He was talking about something he didn't want to do.
And he
comparing it to
much as I could kiss a girl.
Okay.
So by that point, he should at least be interested in like the possibility of kissing a girl.
I don't know. Bruce is 9 years old, and yes, he would say that he's not interested in girls, but he clearly is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could see a boy saying that he's not interested when he clearly is, because Bruce, like, anytime anything comes up like that, or like people kiss on TV, he's like, oh my god, it's so gross, and he leaves the room.
But Bruce is 9. We're estimating that at the time that
He's
Billy
11?
had that thought, he's like 14.
Oh, if he was 14, that'd be a little weird.
Yeah, because it took him 2 years to get the dogs, and he was 10 at the beginning of the book. So 10, 2 years, 12, and then a few years into having the dogs.
But if he's just into coondogging, or
he's just into dogging,
I mean, he's really into coondogs.
He really is.
I'm
really
seriously look at some people that they don't meet somebody until later because they are really into something else, and they're not. They're just not. I'm not saying
he's got no time for it. He's just got no time
for it. Yeah,
he's got no time.
Also, he's got 3 sisters.
He's got 3 sisters. He lives in the fucking boonies, so it's not like there's a bunch of girls around there that he's liking and stuff like that. And there's more interesting things for him right now, But I'll bet you when he moves to town, all of a sudden he's like, whoa,
Hey, Gur.
Hey, Gur.
Hey, Gur.
And they'll be like, you want some of this, daddy? And they'll, and because it's town. It'll be all prostitutes.
he did have some, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say they're misogynist kind of views on girls, but he treated them like they were, these girls are funny because they can't help it, they're girls.
Yeah, they wouldn't understand.
Specifically, the girls in town when he went to pick up his dogs.
Well, not even that, but with his mom and his sisters.
Yeah, they were, after all, females.
Yeah, they're just girls. They don't think like us. They wouldn't understand these things. They run away as soon as it comes to killing the coon.
Yeah, mom couldn't help but be nervous. She's after all a girl.
Yeah.
They were also raised to be that way at the time, though.
They were raised to be.
Definitely that time period was
that.
Yeah.
Like, mom.
That was what was expected of them.
Yeah, mom stayed at home and took care of the kids, and the dad was out on the farm.
Yeah.
But I did find my favorite what was it?
Simile?
I'm not good at words right now. Grandpa flew out of gear like a Model T Ford. I was like that one. That's a good one. Even though I did look up to see if Model T Fords like flew out of gear or anything, but I couldn't find it.
No, the Model T, actually, I just watched a show about that, and the motherfucker was popular for like 20 years, and it was the most reliable car for like 20 years. And then finally other people really started getting some foot in the business. But yeah, by the way, Henry Ford was considered a failure at 38. Now, he was still a piece of shit for the rest of his life, but he was no failure.
Say what you want about him, you did not fail.
He did not fail.
Yeah, his views were problematic.
Sure, that's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about the fact that
most people's.
His name is still prolific, and there's all kinds of money there. I guess I don't know, man. What's the right thing anymore? I think you just got to sink as far down as you can if you really want to get up there.
So Billy's grandpa, I think he's a pretty good dude.
He's a great grandpa.
He is a great
grandpa.
Yeah, he was a really good grandpa.
In my head, he sounded like the grandpa from Rugrats.
I don't know why.
I don't know why, but
yeah, he sounded like my grandpa to me.
That kindly old codger type of thing going.
Yeah, when I read that, I kind of think of my grandpa Miller, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking of my grandpa as well.
Yeah.
So.
Honestly, he was the best character in the book.
Yeah,
so.
he was.
Right. He was very supportive of.
Very well written, yeah.
Of what Billy wanted to do. Yeah.
Yep, it didn't treat Billy like he was just some dumb kid either. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, damn, especially after he came back, he said he'd been saving for 2 years. He's like, fuck, there ain't no other kid out there that would have done that. You know what I mean? Like, and that was something I really liked I did like that about Billy, like his tenacity and his determination to do what he wanted to do. It was cool. And so, yeah. I liked the book. It was just, it's very old-timey,
Very old-timey. It's well written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read pretty well, even though there was, some filler in there.
The first half of the book was filler.
There's a lot of descriptions of nature in there. There's a lot of favorable talk about God and dogs in there.
And unfavorable talk about women.
And unfavorable talk about... So there's something in there for everybody to hate.
It's kind of just...
Yeah.
And yet, when you put it all together, pretty good story.
Yeah.
Basically, Tolkien Light is what it was.
It was not Tolkien Light. It was much better than Tolkien Light.
Yeah.
You know what I think your issue with Tolkien is, besides what we've already covered in previous episodes, but it's just the sheer amount of lore that's behind everything that needs to be told at every given moment, that everything's got a history and there's different languages for everything. Yeah, they break into song here and there, and that's kind of tedious.
There's nothing wrong with breaking into song. I love Bollywood movies.
But yeah, some people are actually into that insanely nerdy amount of backstory and lore that goes into the world of that.
If I'm interested in something, I am though. It just doesn't intrigue me the same way. His stuff is so much about setting and place and time, and there's all these things are going on, but it just, I don't know. Like with C.S. Lewis and how much the scenery was the main character of the book, it felt, and it just
and yet the setting was very much a character in Where the Red Fern Grows too.
It was, but the dogs are chasing
and the river bottoms and the
and
trees and everything.
Right, but for me, I guess, and I relate more to that because I lived out in the country for some time as a kid, about the time that he's this age. Okay, or when I was about his age, and I was running on 20 acres of land, and we were doing all kinds of stuff out in the woods. You know what I mean? So I guess I relate to it more, and when I don't know what it is, but there's plenty of things I love the lore of. I love Star Wars lore and fucking
Yeah.
superhero lore.
How many times have you watched the new Batman movie, the 3-hour long one?
I've watched it at least 6 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you like lore, you love the lore.
Yeah. But I think I relate more to that because Batman's really broody and I'm broody.
You own broody motherfucker.
I said that to someone at work one day. I was sitting there, it was all dark, and I wasn't thinking about it. I was on the computer, and she walks in, and she's like, I'm going to turn the light on. Is that okay? I'm like, I kind of prefer to brood in the dark, but if you have to. She was like, and then she goes, you've said that to me before, and walked away after she turned the light on. And I'm like, oh, have I? Oops.
Recycled jokes.
Yeah.
We don't do those here.
Nope.
Not at all.
Never.
So the ending. To what degree did everybody cry?
I had tears build up, well up inside behind my eyes, but I did not cry because I was already aware that the dogs were going to die. And so it was pretty awful how they died. And I felt that the scene was well written because the mom is cleaning the pine needles and everything off soap. And she said, I only wish I knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? And trying to get his entrails back in, which is a haunting vision, and
sure.
And then, following how Anne just didn't want to live anymore without him. And it's just, yeah, I thought that was really well done. And I did get, like I say, a little bit of well up behind the eyes, but nothing that actually came out.
I got angry because I was like, if he would have better trained his dogs to come when he said come, they wouldn't be dead.
Yeah.
So this time I got angry. I was like, motherfucker, he's just bad at it. Why? They didn't have to die. They were perfectly fine if he would have just trained them to come.
Yes.
Or not chase a goddamn lion.
Not attack a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Yes. Because so many times in this book, these dogs get into mortal peril. He saves little Anne from the river, freezing river or whatever. He was
his grandpa almost
just about
dies.
to lose her. His grandpa almost dies. I'm just focusing on the dogs right here. But there's a couple of coons that almost take them out. This just a long series for their entire short lives of one life-threatening predicament to the next. And when it's a fight that the dogs have picked themselves, specifically old Dan, and old Dan's just a big dummy
for sure,
who needed to pick his battles better and suffered for it because he was probably feeling himself for having won that competition, all big in the britches and stuff, thinking and take on the world or whatever. But he started that fight with the mountain lion. Billy says that the dogs saved his life from the mountain lion, but there's only so much he can say that because Dan's the one that put his life in danger in the first place.
For sure.
If he had just left that mountain lion alone. And that's certainly not God providing, saving his life with the dogs because the dogs put his life in danger in the first place.
Right.
So it's a bad way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
for the dogs, but I didn't feel anything because I'm dead inside.
Right.
And because I felt like it was the ending that was coming to that dog in particular for a long time.
Right.
And for some reason, his sister, I guess, they probably came from the same litter, same mother or something. But she was so attached to him her entire life that she couldn't go on living without him.
She got the Padme disease.
That's the
what
sad
disease?
part.
The Padme.
Oh, the Padme disease. Oh, yeah, died of a broken heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
That part
Yeah.
is sad, I think. But because she didn't deserve anything.
It's more depressing than sad. It's just
Right.
She still had a family that would have loved her and taken care of her, but she just loved that idiot so much.
I
Sometimes
truly
you just
love
love an idiot so much.
all.
I don't know you probably don't know what that's like.
Not at all.
There is so much that Josh gives to 12-year-olds, like 12 and 13-year-olds. He's like, no, listen. He's like, these kids should be acting like 30-year-old adults. Why didn't this 12-year-old that was raising these dogs by himself, mind you, because his parents weren't really involved. He was training them like off his mind, like, this is how you train a coonhound. And you're surprised that he didn't have full control over them? I mean, you can't be mad at this poor kid who haphazardly trained these dogs that he worked for and loved, and then chased off into the woods, not realizing that these idiots were chasing a mountain lion, and they died, and that's sad. It's not, you can't be mad at a 12-year-old for that, Josh. He's not 30.
Oh, yeah, I can.
Oh, man. I can't
Also, if I came home with 2 dogs that my parents didn't know I had, and we were dirt poor to begin with, they wouldn't let me fucking keep them. I know that for damn sure.
But he made up for it by bringing them gifts.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
He made money with the coon skins. He got to stop doing chores because he was making so much money with the coon skins. They earned up enough money with those coon skins that they were able to move out into town.
Yeah, his mom straight up stole his money.
Yeah, dude.
So
well,
that
that's
they
what you
could
do
move
in
into
town.
town.
Thank God.
That's what you do with kids.
And said, thank God for this money.
Thank God I could
Thank
steal this
God
from my
for those
child.
Dogs. Actually, I believe he said he didn't want any of the money that the coons brought in. He just enjoyed having the dogs so much and going hunting so much.
So it was a win-win.
Yeah. What 12-year-old's smart now, huh?
I'm just saying, Josh, how many coons did you hunt down with your coon hound when you
I didn't
were
have a
kid?
coon hound. I had Pudgy.
Oh.
He was not a coon hound.
What other amazing
He was like
what other amazing feats did you accomplish at 10, 12 years old? The determination of this kid, I'm just saying, that's not fair to be mad at him, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
How much money did your dogs bring in?
Yeah.
Oh, Pudgy? He was just a good, pup.
But Janelle, your level of crying?
Well, clearly my Barb's your aunt tells you that I knew the ending of the book, even though I had the dog's deaths backwards. So I knew to expect it. So this time I didn't cry. Like, I was still sad about it. But I didn't cry because I knew it was coming. I knew they were going to die. I knew it was going to be painful for one of them. And I knew the other one sunk into a deep doggy depression and died soon thereafter. So no tears from me.
Yep.
What about the first time?
That was a long time ago.
Do you remember how sad you were?
So the first time I was actually introduced to this, it was through the movie, during like one of the family movie nights that we used to have growing up. And I do remember crying over that. I think I probably cried when we read the book in 5th grade, but that was also at the age where I really didn't cry in front of anyone. And so I probably tried not to cry in class.
Do you remember which version of the film you watched?
No, not off the top of my head.
Because the most recent one was made in 2003. That one featured Dave Matthews as the father.
Oh my goodness.
Do you think I'm going to remember be able to remember what the father looked like? 2003,
like the guy from Dave Matthews Band.
2003 would be right for me to be in 5th grade, though, because I would have turned 10.
Okay, so it was recently...
So it could have possibly been that one.
Okay.
I would have to watch it to know for sure.
I mean, it's got Dave Matthews in it. Can't lose.
We can't lose.
Yeah.
Also Ned Beatty, who we also know as the pilot from the Hatchet movie.
He fucking dies. Oh my god. Again?
Poor guy. He's in all these movies that we watch. Oh god.
Oh no, he's farting again. He's gonna die.
Yeah, that dude just plays the sheriff.
Oh, so the
marshal.
Of, whatever that town
The
was
soda.
called.
Oh, the
where he gets
marshal
the
that
soda.
saved him?
Yeah,
That's
the
another
marshal,
one.
yeah.
That's another one. I mean, I know it's the 1920s, but my God, this 12-year-old kid comes up and he's like, "Oh, I'm just heading out with my dogs. I gotta." Well, you ain't gonna make it home in that time, are you? Nah, I imagine I'll camp out somewhere in the woods where the
Yeah, I'm
dangerous.
just kid by myself with 2 puppies in the woods
Yep,
overnight.
yep.
You know.
NBD.
And the
It's
marshal's
a
like,
simpler time.
"Yep, that's a good idea."
I like how like his very first interaction with the marshal or the sheriff, whatever. He saw his gun and he thought that he was just gonna immediately just pull it and shoot him to death.
It's possible.
He's got some ACAB instinct.
He does.
What happened? It's
Like even back then, they knew ACAB.
yep. Oh my goodness.
But then he turns out to be a decent guy who bought him a soda.
Yep.
Who
Strawberry soda sounds
a
good.
Yeah.
strawberry soda tickled his nose. But like all those kids who were bullying him for having puppies in his sack, I guess.
Yeah, kids are dumb.
Like everybody in town. It was
Yeah,
even
they-
like the 2 older ladies who were like, "Well, I never."
Yeah, like, oh my god.
Like, what the hell? You never seen a kid and a couple dogs before?
Because he was the different thing. He was the easy target for them.
Wasn't he barefoot
So.
too?
He was
Yes,
barefoot
He was
too.
barefoot. He probably had holes in his overalls.
They made
and-
fun of him, called him hillbilly,
He's a hillbilly, yep.
which he was. So you know,
Technically, yeah.
Southern pride.
He's from the hills and his name is Billy.
It's from the hills, and his name is Billy. He's like, "How'd you know my name?"
Did God tell you that?
Oh,
We're good
golly.
friends.
we're good friends.
We're
I talk
good
to him every
friends.
night.
He helped me chop down a tree one time.
God help me chop down a tree.
All right.
We've covered the book pretty well.
Yeah.
Overall, do we want to rate it?
I don't know. Do we
Like
have a rating
or
system?
recommend it. We don't
We
really have
just
a
we just
rating
say whether or
system,
not
just
we recommend it.
Listen,
recommend it.
Let's
Do
all
recommend it.
let's all use our own personal whatever we want it to be rating system.
Okay, yeah. I give it a green out of 7.
Okay. Okay. I give it 3 used sponges. out of 5.
Out of 5.
Out of 5. Okay.
I'm going to recommend the book because I did still enjoy it.
What's your rating? What's your
And
personal rating?
I'm going to steal the rating of one of my favorite podcasts to listen to and say it is 4 spoons. So it is part of the Golden Plate Club.
What a Josh
Okay.
thing to do.
Wow.
Yep,
All the way to
totally.
the Golden Plate Club.
Hey, Portillo's is in there too, so
Portillo's is on the Golden Plate Club.
totally is.
It should be.
Should be platinum, but the
Goddamn.
guest was an asshole.
You know what we ought to do? We ought to do one of these days here soon. Is we ought to go down and take the kids like Portillo's. I don't know if Xander's ever had it, but we should take a trip down there.
I have never had Portillo's.
Yeah, we should all take a trip down there.
Do they have chicken fingers? Because Xander would only really want the chicken
I'm
fingers.
sure they have chicken something.
Yeah.
Actually,
we'll
just go next
Portillo's.
door to BJ's because they have awesome chicken. They have a root beer
Okay.
glazed chicken. Oh, so
Root
good.
beer glazed chicken?
Oh,
Xander
dude,
might
it's
go
so
for that.
good. It
Maybe.
is
You never
Maybe.
know.
on point.
Although it is something new. So, anyways,
Yeah.
we're not here to talk about our kids and food or whatever.
No, but he mentioned Portillo's, and I thought it needed to be said.
Do I get to rate it too?
Yes,
Yeah,
Janelle.
yeah. What's your personal rating?
What's your
So-
personal rating?
I will recommend this, and I will give it 4.5 coonskins out of 6.
4.5 coonskins out of 6.
relevant?
Tacked to the side of the smokehouse facing the road so that everyone can see just how
Yes.
good your dogs are at killing.
Yes.
Is there a
Gotta
word up
let
in that
everyone
spider
know.
web?
How much God hates coons. Which really sounds like a racist thing to say.
only when you finish it with
Point it
that.
out.
Yeah. When you
Yes.
finish it with that,
Only
yes.
if you notice it.
No,
if you guys ever start
when
making
you point it
podcast
out.
money with if you guys ever start making money with this podcast, this episode will be demonetized just for that.
Oh,
Just for that. All right. So
way to make it
that's-
awkward, Andy.
Way to make it
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can stand to talk about this book. Not that I hated it or anything. It's just, it for anyone who wants a coming of age boy and his faithful dog story. It's a pretty good one, I'd say, but yeah, not bad.
Took 13 chapters to go through like 4 years, but then the remaining 12 chapters were about 2.5 days.
Yeah, decent slice of life in early 20th century America, middle America,
Ozarks.
whatever.
Ozarks.
The Ozarks, yeah. If you like that kind of Ozark stuff, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yep, not a bad book.
Can't help but reading in a southern accent and an Ozarky accent. Anyways, next time on Reliterated, we're going back to Goosebumps in a book requested by our friend Mark, who may or may not join us. We have yet to determine for sure. But with or without him, we're doing The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, revisiting our old buddy Red Fern Longitude Stein.
Excellent.
So come back and get your goosebumps on with us at Reliterated. Until then, give a shit, read some lit.
Bob's your uncle. That's Reliterated.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you, Janelle, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Reliterated, a production of the Chocolate Milk Friends and part of the 989 Podcast Network. If you enjoy our show, please consider giving us support by subscribing, recommending us to your book reading, podcast listening, 90s nostalgic friends, and most importantly, rating and reviewing us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible Podcasts, and Spotify. Did I mention we really want some Spotify ratings right now? Your ratings and reviews go a long way towards getting us in the ears of new listeners. You're also invited to join the growing Reliterated community on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you really want to get nuts, we have a Discord too. So bing us and join us in this nonsense. If you have a book suggestion for a future episode or have questions for us, send us an email at reliterated@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
I don't remember my sign off. Have a good
Your
one.
sign off is
Bob's your
Bob's
uncle.
your uncle.
Bob's
That's
your uncle,
Reliterated.
Bob's your uncle. That's Reliterated. I couldn't remember if we decided that was good or not.
Yes,
I
I
like
think it's
it.
good.
Okay.
Better than
Yeah.
my thanks, everybody, which is what I would do. Yeah, hit that music. Do, 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 do.